All right. Joining us now, Vice Chairman of the Select Committee on Intelligence, Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia. He has introduced a plan that would guarantee paychecks for workers who are furloughed or laid off during this crisis, which is much needed. I do have to ask, though, about something you posted on Twitter that was yeah, we'll wait till later. It was something with you cooking, Mark. I don't know. I want an answer on that at the end of this interview. Okay, so tell us about the plan at the end, because we might have to, leave. All right, so the plan that you're putting on the table for furloughed workers right now who aren't getting a paycheck, would it apply to them? Yes. How would it work?
Well, I think Congress has tried in good faith to blunt this, but we're seeing an economic tsunami. What we've ended up doing so far is we've done a pretty good program for the airlines at one industry, and even with some of its flaws, the PPP program for businesses 500 and under has been replenished. But there's a lot of folks not getting the money through PPP. There's a whole lot of folks in the middle market, those 500 to 10,000 person firms that are getting nothing. And we're saying, let's take a step back. Let's look at what may be working better. For example, if you look at Europe, where they're doing this direct paycheck support approach, they're seeing unemployment rise between 2% and 5%. So I'm saying let's not criticize what we did so far, but let's step back now and go ahead and put in place a paycheck support guarantee program for everybody up and down the food chain. Pay this money directly, a percentage of people's salary up to, say, $90,000, and pay it through the payroll processors. Get rid of the middlemen in terms of the banks, and have a much more massive support system. And what we've seen, Mika, is I've got support from folks like Bernie Sanders on the left. We've got interest, a similar proposal from Josh Hawley, a Republican senator from Missouri on the right. We've had interest from the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. It may be a moment to say, as well-intentioned as what we've done so far, we need to go bigger, we need to go direct, we need to cut out a lot of the bureaucracy, and frankly, modeled off of what seems to be working better in Europe, that may be the approach that we should take.
Right, and taking into consideration what the scientists are saying, I'm just wondering if you all have a sense that this is going to be needed, and perhaps more is going to be needed, given that, for example, as Dr. Michael Osterholm said previously, he's a infectious disease and research expert on this. We're in the second inning of a 9-inning game. This is going to be going on for months and months at least. Is this sustainable?
Well, I think the government has to do whatever it takes. We're in uncharted territory. The one thing we'd also suggest that for people to get the support, and we would bring people on furloughs back to reconnect them with their employer. So again, that would also guarantee the health insurance wouldn't go away, because even with the expanded unemployment benefits we put forward, when you sever that employer-employee relationship, a lot of folks lose their health insurance. And it would also correct one of the things that we've suggested would be correcting what is partially the problem, for example, with the PPP program, where you see companies that may be public companies that may not have the need or have not shown economic loss getting funds, which frankly makes a lot of folks rightfully very angry. I think the Treasury Secretary is going to try to clarify that this morning. I think he's been working his tail off. I give him credit. I don't always agree with the Trump administration by any means, but Steve Mnuchin, I think, has been working his tail off on this. One of the things we would put forward with our new initiative would be also a requirement that you have to demonstrate at least 20% revenue loss. We need to do all we can to help those in need, but I think most Americans are pretty rightfully angry when they read about public companies or companies that are doing fine getting, for example, this PPP money.
Willie.
Senator Warner, it's Willie Geist. You anticipated my next question, which was there are a lot of small business owners with 10, 20, 30 employees who couldn't get a piece of that PPP in the first round, but they did see big national restaurant chains getting millions of dollars, publicly traded companies getting millions of dollars. So in this new stimulus bill, has that problem been rectified? Will that money go directly to the businesses who need it as an existential question? In other words, they can't survive this month if they don't get the money.
Well, That is our intent. That's what took us an extra week to get negotiated. And at the end of the day, it was a bipartisan agreement. Let me be clear that we needed to correct some of the problems in the initial PPP. There's $60 billion, for example, set aside for very small businesses, for minority-owned businesses, for folks who didn't get access the first time. Matter of fact, I was just doing some Spanish radio, and in the Hispanic community, a lot of businesses have prided themselves on the fact that they've saved money to start their business and didn't go get a loan, and now they're getting criticized because they didn't have a banking relationship. So we need to correct that. $60 billion is put aside. There's $10 billion additional as well for the emergency direct loans. That quick shot of $10,000, that should be able to be getting out quicker. And I do think the Treasury Secretary is going to put out some guidance today to make explicitly clear that if you're a public company and you got money on your balance sheet, if you got access to other capital, if you've not seen an economic loss. I know, unfortunately, friends of mine who got some of this money who have money management firms. They're not hurting at all. But he's going to try to clarify that there will be penalties if you have other access to capital and instead you're going for this emergency relief.
Let's move from the economy to the Intel Committee. This past week, the President of the United States called members of our Intel community scum, called people in the FBI scum. In Helsinki, of course, you'll remember him telling the press that he trusted the words of Vladimir Putin more than America's intelligence community, that there had been a political grudge against him, and that the Intel community acted improperly. The Senate Intel Committee, Republican-led, but one that you have worked very closely as a ranking member with the chairman, came out with a unanimous report this week that everything the president said ended up being a lie about political motivations, that yes, the FBI made mistakes. Yes, there were mistakes made in the FISA process, but there did not seem to be a political axe to grind by anybody in the FBI. Can you talk about that report, that unanimous decision by Republicans and Democrats alike?
Joe, this was the result of 3 years of work. This was a 158-page report that confirmed that the intelligence community, when they made their assessment about what happened in 2016, that under the direct orders of Vladimir Putin, the Russians intervened in our elections. They did it to help Donald Trump candidate. They did it to, frankly, hurt Hillary Clinton candidate. We'd said that before. This was the full report that comes out on that. It was unanimous, and we go from the far right to the far left on our committee. We have one more version of that report that will come out that will go into great detail, 900 pages. It's going through its security clearance review now. That will go through in explicit detail the connections between the Trump campaign and agents of Russia. That will come at some point once it's gotten appropriate clearance. And the bigger question that you're raising, Joe, and one that I am so concerned at with our appropriate focus on COVID-19, is that we are seeing a hollowing out of our intelligence community. I wrote an op-ed just recently where I pointed out that literally within the Director of National Intelligence Office right now, there is not a single Senate-confirmed high-ranking official. And my fear is the ability of the intelligence community to speak truth to power is being undermined by this administration, by this president, and frankly, he's got a political appointee as an acting director right now that's trying to hollow out that independence. And our country is weakened if the intelligence community cannot speak truth to power. Their obligation to tell the president the truth, their obligation to tell the Congress the truth remains, and I fear that's being undermined.
So, Senator, thank you. I mean, everything you're saying makes so much sense and, of course, is so credible. But then what are we supposed to do with this? Take a look.
What I'm about to prepare, I grew up on, ate it a lot. I learned to make it very, very young. It is truly my real specialty. So today we're going to create a tuna melt. First of all, 2 pieces of bread. Put them out on the plate. Open up the mayonnaise.
I love mayo. I know my kids hate mayo, but make sure you get plenty on both sides. Next comes the important part, the tuna. You need a heating device. I'm going with the MVP 5, and one of my old favorites, usually about 30 seconds.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. I don't know. That's
What are we to make
mayo.
of this? Senator, we're talking about a healthcare crisis right here. You are a walking pandemic with your mayo.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
I just got to tell you now, I'm not sure all of the viewers know, but Joe, Mika, and I were all on judges on Top Chef a few years back.
Worst judge I've ever seen in my life.
Everything.
Once I put that specialty out, Tom Colicchio the other day said, you know, pack up your knives, Warner. I did this video because, like, I'm seeing all these other politicians sing a song or make their, you know, their mom's favorite brownie recipe. I thought I'd have a little fun. And matter of fact, you know, whether it was the mayo, the microwave, the white bread, not draining the tuna, I got, you know, the trouble was I got a lot more attention about that video than my whole paycheck security program or my whole op-ed on the Intel community. So, who knows?
Willie, the wrong kind of Mayo Clinic
It's
here.
not good. That was so gross. I don't know. Senator, I get the whole thing that happened on Top Chef now, that thing you did. Okay, Senator Mark Warner, thank you. That does it for us this morning. Stephanie Roll picks up the coverage right now.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.